Hello, Abigail here with the astrology for this week. And this week is action packed. Not quite as entangled as our eclipse season energy, but this week has one after another, a bunch of pretty major astrological moments. A lot of this has to do with where the outer planets are and how they're interconnecting with the personal planets. And, when we are in Scorpio, which is a fixed sign, and Libra, which is a cardinal sign, we are covering, our fixed and cardinal placements. And then also Uranus is in Gemini, and one of these signs is an air sign. So there's a lot of intermixing and interweaving of a lot of kind of storylines. This is also, the week after our full moon in Aries. So things are starting to pick up. Our first astrological moment starts on Monday, and it is Venus entering into Libra. This is our last personal planet to finally get through Virgo, and we'll be coming out of Venus's opposition with Saturn. This is a breath of fresh air. Venus will finally be in domicile. Venus will be in her home of Libra. This is a place where Venus is very happy, very fluent. Um, Venus is very much the Venus that we think of when it is in Libra or in Taurus. They're both ruled by this. But in this moment, we do have this relief. There is a little bit of time before we're going to feel it because, of course, any planet entering into Libra is going to go into an opposition with Neptune, and Neptune's about to go back into Pisces, but not quite yet. And so, Venus goes straight into its 0 degrees opposition with Neptune on that day in the evening. So it's going to enter, it's going to go into the opposition with Neptune, issues around other people and our values and how we decide to engage with more difficult topics are going to be kind of called into question. If you haven't been kind of standing on your ethics in a relationship, or you've kind of been hiding parts of self in order to, maybe get along with someone or have them like you, this is that moment where maybe we need to reconsider that approach, where we're coming into this opposition with the planet of kind of dreams and mysticism and magic and oftentimes a fog, even though it's retrograde. And it's going to force us to face some things. Now, we can choose to continue it with delusion. That's always an option with Neptune. But you are going to be given a choice to stand on what you believe is correct, to stand on your boundaries, to stand on what you consider justice, in a sense. Because, and we have the scales for Libra. So we are instantly going into spicy time. And also, don't forget, on the next day, we're not quite there yet, but on the next day, it goes into that trine with Pluto. So we're going to be getting this kind of, do I maintain this facade or this kind of haze around certain topics so that I can maintain connection with someone? Or do I strip it all away and kind of allow myself to be accepted for who I am? And Venus in Libra does like to have a bit of a, some pizzazz, a little bit of rose petals here and there, but it's all done in a very kind of genuine and romantic way. And this doesn't have to be even romantic relationships, but like, who are you sprinkling rose petals for? But also maybe need to be a little more authentic, a little less covered with. Where can, facing, I think another story that we've been experiencing through Virgo is, us having to kind of face the stories we've told ourselves and the ways in which we cope and handle trauma that can entangle things further down the road. This is kind of that final point to be like, do I want to continue this kind of South Node story of intricate systems of survival that often involve stabilizing other people? No, it's not a bad thing to help people regulate. It's not a bad thing to make people feel so comfortable and safe. However, you were not meant to carry that load on your own. So this is about really facing exactly where you are when it comes to other people. It's about recognizing where people are meeting you from and recognizing where maybe you need to give more or they need to give more. And if one or both of you can't do that, is this something you can feasibly continue in the way it is right now? And part of the reason this is so important is because Pluto stations direct. So Pluto finally stations direct. You can breathe a sigh of relief because it won't be going back through these degrees again. It'll be going back through other degrees. But if you have any early degree fixed stuff, it'll still be hitting them, but it is now moving direct. And it's going to be moving away from those placements. So rejoice. But, this also is going to lead us into Venus is trine with Pluto on Tuesday and Venus is trine with Uranus on Tuesday. So we head into the next day with a direct Pluto, which I think is really nice and positive. Direct does take a second to kind of start moving forward. So it is going to feel a bit kind of fixed and stuck, especially in a fixed sign. But it also slows things down enough for us to really be like, oh, this is the rotting underside of the system. This is the rot and the stench of the thing. We're not going to be able to just buzz past stuff that is broken, that is not functioning, that is actively destroying our neighborhoods and our friends and the places that we love. This includes how a good example is that they just opened up the Alaska wilderness for corporations. This isn't opening things up for the American people to enjoy it, which, may or may not be something that is good. This is to simply open it up for mining. And so that Pluto station is going to force us to look at things like this, where destruction and violence and cruelty are the point, and we can't pretend that they're not the point anymore. Also, we hit that Uranus trine in the morning with Venus and Uranus. This is a moment, an opportunity to look at things from a new perspective. It's an opportunity to change people's minds. Something interesting I find about Uranus is its participation with things like propaganda and pushing ideology. Now, we don't want to propagandize people, but it is a good Uranus for sharing ideas in creative ways to counteract things like propaganda, to take knowledge and get ahead of the current timeline and get ahead of where people are going without thinking. So this is an opportunity in our relationships to communicate, to initiate change, and we will be able to initiate change in the context of that Pluto moment where we're like, oh my gosh, this is horrific, this is bad. We can't hide from it anymore. Things are getting worse. We're going to be seeing with Uranus and Gemini, and we're going to be seeing with Pluto and Aquarius, an uptick in global warming and things like that, as we are forced to look at the consequences of actions and ideas in the next 20 or so years. 7 years for Uranus, roughly little under 20 years now for Pluto. And this is the time to harness these types of moments to move that forward, to shift perspectives, to start things, to build on them as we progress. This is also an opportunity while we have Saturn in Pisces to plant some seeds in a previous Saturn cycle so that they get legs faster as we move into Aries. So we're not putting everything on that Aries Saturn next year. So get ahead of the curve, folks. And the bright side about outer planets is we are dealing with personal planet with Venus, but the outer planets often tend to kind of happen to us, where I find that the personal planets tend to be an action in participation with us, is that we're just being asked to respond. You don't need to mastermind some scheme on Tuesday with how you're going to harness the energy. Also, this energy is really ancient and and will go on for forever. You were simply asked to put in your grain of sand to everyone else's grain of sand to make a mountain. So participate consciously on Tuesday with the Venus trine Uranus, the Venus trine Pluto. Then we kind of have a break as we I shouldn't say break. We're experiencing this the whole time, but we don't have anything happening till Friday. And then the sun squares Jupiter, when we will have a Jupiter square with Venus upcoming as well, but just not this week. And so we're kind of being called at the kind of corners of the year, because that's what the cardinal axis is, to really understand where we have been and what we have been doing and how to take all of that information and its impacts on the self and understand what we now desire and what we now want. I have So many clients come in asking about what is going to happen. And a lot of the times the cards are like, what is going to happen is going to happen. This is an opportunity here and now for you as the individual to make a choice to change the trajectory of your life. Now, obviously, you can't change everything. You cannot change how you were raised. You cannot change your socioeconomic situation and how you were born. But you can change based on the options you currently have. And that's really what I feel the square is asking us to do. It is asking us to understand what is best for us in the context of the difficulties and resistance and capacity that we have. Because Jupiter often pushes us beyond capacity, and a square reminds us that we do indeed have one and we do want to make progress, but we have to be conscious within this kind of volatile moment of how much we can participate and how much we can shift and change, and what we are going to kind of have to sit with and marinate with um, as we are kind of both participating in and acted on by the universe. This is also a great chance to really look at your progress and tweak some things and be like, this hasn't been working. I am going to go, activate other parts of my life to get maybe the same result. If you've been pushing something with a specific place or person and it's not really happening, depending on also where this is in your chart, go see if there's another route to the same path or if there is another place where you can get the same thing. Then we also have in this moment Sun opposed Chiron. So we get this T square, Chiron, the Sun, and Jupiter. And this is also going to be referencing back, and I kind of touched on it briefly a second ago. What is your capacity within the life that you've been given and within the trauma that you've experienced? And some people can push through a lot of stuff, and luck, speaking of Jupiter, can be on their side. But there are some people whose lifetimes have been so painful and exhausting so far that instead of kind of go, 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 it is time to scale back and to really hone in on what is essential. I pursued being a performer for quite some time. And then I realized that if I ever got the thing that I wanted, I wouldn't be happy because I didn't really want what the result of that thing was. What I truly wanted was to be seen and heard and respected. And while I still love performing and I love singing and all those things, I wouldn't have enjoyed the lifestyle required of someone who does those things. And then, of course, I then discovered I'm also disabled in multiple ways. But this is that moment to say, hey, I have been through X, Y, and Z. Do I want to take a path that continues my suffering to get some ultimate goal? And maybe you do decide to do that, but it needs to be a conscious choice where you go, yes, I am going to put myself through more hell in order to gain something, or you choose not to, rather than just pushing this idea that constant progress has to be the goal. That's capitalism, my dear. You don't have to constantly achieve. Some people really enjoy it, but a lot of us are simply forced to live in a world where if we're not exponentially increasing, we are worthless. So let that die today, or at least on Friday. Then on Saturday, we have Mars trine the North Node. This is an opportunity to really envisage and harness that eclipse energy that we have been experiencing to really see where we could head and what is possible for us. It's also kind of very much tied to that Sun T square with Jupiter, this like, what is my desire and capacity for the stuff that I want? And if you know that you need to do it, but you don't know where the capacity is, this is a moment of trust in that North Node that you will find a way and that the universe will also help you through the energy of progression and transformation. And harnessing Mars in Scorpio, which is very spicy. This is also a moment to plan and dream, but to keep it to ourselves, but to not feel obligated to share, especially when people might have questionable intentions or might not fully believe in us. And it's, especially if I'm better at it now, but I have a Neptune square Mercury. And so I can get really down when someone doesn't believe in me or says something harmful or thoughtless, especially when it comes to my progression. And, one way to avoid that is not to tell people stuff until you've done it. And so this is a time to kind of keep your cards close to your chest, but to dream wildly. Imagine different systems and different lives and a world where things function better, and also a world where vengeance is served, where rage is acceptable, where our drive for things doesn't have to become this capitalistic hellhole. It can become this drive to build community and to re-creature the world and to reinstigate a wilding of a world that we have um, put chains of concrete and toxins on. This is also a chance to just be like, F it, and be like, this is a dream that I have for the future. And here are some action points I can take now. Also, the very next day on Sunday, we get Mercury trine. That moment, let me just double check my notes. Yeah, and then on Monday, we're going to experience the, I'm just making sure I didn't forget the Mars Mercury conjunction. That's next week. But we also get a nice boost of thought and kind of a connection between Mars and like this kind of blind action, and then the eyes of Mercury and the planning and the idea man, basically. So we have the action man and the idea man, or action person or idea person together. Um, it'll fully like perfect on Monday of next week, but we get to have both action and thought together in dreaming and planning for the future. If you want to start writing down something you want to manifest or something you plan on having in the future and you're going to be working towards in the next 6 months, it's nice to do things in 6-month increments in astrology. 6 months is a good one. Between lunar cycles is another good one. New and full moons. There's lots of ways to do it, but I would say pick a period of time that is digestible and put a plan in place. Dream a dream, set forth an idea, something that is deep in your heart, that is truly connected with your desires and passions, that gets you excited and giddy in a really raw, innate way. It doesn't have to technically be work. It doesn't have to be love. It can be those things. It can also just be something you want to accomplish, or a skill set you want to achieve, or a place you want to go to. But find something this week to put future progressive energy into to help drive you through the darker winter months. Anyways, my loves, that is the astrology of this week. I know it was quite a lot. Also, check out your unique birth chart, because sometimes these weeks might seem chaotic for some people and you're like, why are they not for me, or vice versa. It's because you have a unique chart that is also interacting. For instance, a good example is me. I have an early degree planet in a fixed sign in Leo. So that Mars square Pluto, it was rough for everyone, wrecked me. And I went through a lot of physical stuff because of where that falls in my chart. So I encourage you to take a look at where this stuff is falling in your chart so you get a better idea of where it's going. If you don't know anything about astrology, you can always book a reading with someone, me, someone you like on the internet. I always encourage getting a check-in anyways. But now is the time to lock in, to work with the energy as we head into the thinning of the veil and the darker months and, the winter solstice, because fall equinox is leading us ever deeper into the darkness of the northern hemisphere. Anyways, I will see you in a different time and place. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my work. It always makes me feel good and happy about the effort I put into this stuff. And I'll see you later.